You know, we're about to start the day. We're going to Spark. You know, this is going to be for anybody that wants to start a, you know, invention, wants to, you know the ins and outs of developing a brand or a product when it comes to, you know, the mechanical side and what you have to do to get the blueprints in the beginning. Going through the craziest phases when I was addicted to perks. I just drive down these streets so much. Between hustling them, taking them, it's crazy. Meriden is a crazy place, man. If you could, like they say, if you can make it out of somewhere, if you can make it out of Meriden, you can make it anywhere. This shit crazy, for real. Great town, good people. They just don't, you know what I mean? They gotta get out of Meriden to experience it. What's crazy is everybody, like, there's so much talent. Everybody, this is a special time because there was so many great, so many legends. But what happens, sometimes you get patronized or get too much love in your own town and don't understand that it's bigger than just this little puddle. You gonna record?
Let me just talk my shit because it's been a little minute.
So now we pulling up right here. This is Nesset. You know, this is where it all went down. This is now what I'm going to talk about is the box, the barbershop, one-stop shop. This is for the barbers. This is the other avenue, that an invention basically that's going to clean and sanitize your clippers. I know you probably already heard it from the last couple videos, but this is where it all began. This is the beginning stages. Spark. How's everything? So this is Dan. This is one of the guys behind the project of the one-stop shop. So this is basically where, you know, we're developing everything, and, you know, this is the beginning. You know, basically Spark. These are all the inventions that, you know, they work on, put together, develop.
Nice.
So basically, we just want, you know, we're coming just to do like a rundown and to explain to people, like, you know, the beginning process of building molds and everything, and just like give us a little rundown.
Yeah.
Cause I was explaining to them that how much you helped me through everything so far with the CAD drawings, the putting it together, the manufacturing of it, and it's very special to me have Dan here to have us go a walkthrough of Spark.
No, it's good to have you guys here. So we're an industrial design firm. 3 partners started it back in 2002. I've been with them for like about 18 years now. So, but they've got quite a bit of experience, and basically we help to bring, it's either inventors or companies, you know, bring from idea all the way through into production. So it doesn't matter where that starts. Like sometimes companies come to us and they want us to come up with brand new ideas for them. And sometimes people have an idea that they just need help developing. Yeah, I mean, we've done everything from toys to, back in the day, there was even some, you know, vehicles. So, from what seems simple, like a buckle, that not necessarily is in the end once you try to make it work. We sort of do it all. We've done some medical stuff in the past. That's becoming a little bit more specialized now. We haven't done that in a little bit, but it pretty much run a pretty wide variety of stuff.
So if you had to say, like, so if somebody was first to jump into, you know, becoming an inventor or starting a business, like what is the first thing they would start with? Like if you had to tell somebody, like, the main thing to start with.
So it's funny because Dave and I were actually just talking about that. I think it's your business plan. Like what, you know, what's your idea? Who do you think you could sell it to? What's your market? You know, do you have a price that you think you could sell it for? You know, figure out your kind of numbers and what your niche is, what makes your idea unique. And then once you have that, it's refinement of that idea. And that's either through, you know, brainstorming, sketching, making prototypes. Eventually you've got to get into CAD in order to get quotes or really solid prototypes.
And that's the phase that I'm in right now. We're in the phase of the sketches and the CADs. After that, we're looking for a manufacturer. Also, how long does it usually take, the process of it? Like, if you had to say years, like, or like a time behind it to develop, like, estimate.
Oh,
so people know, because it's a tough.
That's a tough question. Yeah, I mean, simple stuff you could probably do through in 6 months, just because there's a process. But I'd say you really want to give yourself, that full year of development and figuring things out. It just does. It takes a while, to really take a step back. Because you want to give the idea to other people to give you feedback, and that's where a lot of time comes in too, because you might need to just take a break for a couple months and just sit on your idea.
It always changes. There's always going to be something new. Nothing's ever going to be perfect, and you just got to keep trying and keep going.
Absolutely. The products that we've seen kind of not end up going anywhere are the ones that they're really married to that first thought, and they won't change no matter what.
So you gotta adapt. Like, you gotta be ready for take critique and switch.
If everybody's giving you feedback and you're not willing to take it, chances are it's not gonna do well. And it's tough because it's easy to get caught up in your own idea and.
Is there any way you could show us like a step, like a development, like not a whole project obviously, but like is there anything you could show us like that you're working on that's like to to show like a sketch, like or even mine, like if you have a brief sketch of what I'm doing.
I printed something out. Got a little design space here, and we're working on, I don't know, we probably have like a dozen-ish projects going on at any given time, all in different phases basically, but they're all, it depends.
Tricky, right? Like
everyone's got their own little things that you've got to work through. It's whether you're trying to get the cost down or you're trying to just make it function better or what have you, and that just varies. It really depends on what the product is, right? So, but this is probably a good one. We kind of had this one scripted out. So this is something we did for Staples a number of years ago, and we kind of just laid out the steps. They used to come to us with.
So make sure you get the paper. After you have it in your mind, make sure you have the sketches and the paper and the concept so you can bring it to real life. This is what you need.
Yeah. And unfortunately, there's not much skipping of steps. You can try, but you're going to end up spending the time in the end. You just are,
It's awesome.
So we used to have a lot of design freedom with Staples, and we were able to kind of present some different ideas to them. And one of them, this is actually was Bill. We were doing some pencil sharpeners with them, and he had come up with an idea for like an easier to use one. They're always kind of sliding across the table when you're pushing them, and then emptying them was always a thing. So he kind of came up with the idea of being able to push down and then just empties into the garbage can like that, and it can plug in.
Wish I had that when I was in school.
Right. It's just
that's cool. That's a good idea.
It's just a different take on it. So he had presented the idea and outlined it, did some sketches. They liked it, so we moved on to CAD, did the whole development, did some models, refined the shape of it so you could hold it, drop it in, all the mechanics of how it works and everything. They have factories overseas that they work with, so we get to a point with somebody like that where it's like a tech pack and you hand it off, and then they figure out the motor and everything.
Wow.
So that made that a little bit easier on us. But
so would you say like that's also a great point that you brought up? Like, would you say you start over here first and then you outsource to like go to like other countries or like places? Like what's the step behind that after you know the volume that you want or whatever you're moving forward with? Do you stay here or what do you do usually? Like, how does that go?
So that depends on the product too. When we've done bigger things like sheet metal and bigger products, we stay right here. Like we had that VR sim company. It was all manufactured right in Connecticut because it was too big and too low a volume. They were only doing 10 at a time. You can't really go overseas for that. You're not going to see the gains there.
Because I remember you were telling me too, because it's hard having different, a lot of people working on the project, right, to match up like certain aspects. So it's like everything has to kind of flow, right?
Yeah. And then we've run into that with a few things here where different factories are making things and you put them together and you're like, that doesn't work anymore. So yeah, it really has to be tied together. It's a volume game going overseas. It really is, and it's a volume game for almost any product. Really,
like a starting number. What do you think is like a good number to start? Would you start with like 50, or like what would you to manufacture in the beginning? Like what's a good number
for your product? Yeah, because if we're starting with thermoforming, it's a sheet of plastic that they then suck into a mold with vacuum. They heat it up, and that's it's a good way of making things. It's a less expensive way than injection molding, where tooling can be $50,000 or something for something like that. If you were going to make 10,000 of your product, you would want to go that route, because you would actually, in the end, you'd save money doing that, because the part price would be less. You can get more detail in it. Assembly might be a little bit easier because you can mold in bosses and things. And that's just where you have to look at every project on its own and say, hey, this is the best way to do it based on what your goal is. Everybody's got different goals. But it is challenging.
That's my next question. Does it ever get really stressful?
Yeah.
Like how if you had to say how what are the hours, what I mean, usually do you ever work extra after
For sure, yeah, because you want things to be right. Yep. You don't want to. You do kind of get attached to the projects too, and it does get tough because sometimes you're getting quotes back that are not what you expect. So there's like a guilt thing there. You don't have any control over that, but you're trying to make it work for the client. You've got a lot of time in it, and you know them personally. And
now, is there a process as you got so you have Dave, yourself, Bill, and Charles? Is there a process? Does it each person have a different objective
expertise? Yeah, I mean we generally all do it all, but
okay.
No, if I had to put myself in a box, I'd be more like a mechanical type of person versus a styling. If we were gonna have somebody do sketches right now, it'd be Dave. He's on the business end. Bill and I overlap a lot. I think we do a lot of mechanical CAD and stuff like that. Charles is newer here. He's kind of trying everything right now. So,
awesome.
But yeah, we used to have a guy who just did sketches a number of years ago. That's kind of harder to do now because everybody just wants to get to that prototype. It's harder to build that out, and if that needs to be done, you do it. But the extra time where you're doing these beautiful cars type sketches where they're just amazing, I wouldn't do that on your project because it would just be a waste of time, and not a waste of time. I take that back, but it's not necessary. So why put the time in there? Why spend that money? You're just not going to do it, and unfortunately, that is happening. Which is for better or worse. It's just the business changes, just like everything else in the world is changing.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, you gotta move on.
Yep. And then to finish this up, I just want to know what is one of your favorite projects that you worked on that you feel that was oh my gosh, I can't believe that I completed it.
Oh jeez, gosh, that's tough.
I know you work on so many, but what's the coolest thing you think you have put together so far in your 20 years?
God, there's so many answers for that because I can't believe that we pulled that off. Was probably that the virtual reality thing.
Oh my God, I've seen that.
The time frame on that was so short. And
can you explain that to them? Because I seen that, and that was the craziest thing.
So it's a big thing that houses a whole virtual reality thing. So it opens all up. There's a monitor. There's sensors and everything, and it was from start to finish was 3.5 months, and that is such a short time frame
for that. Because
I
remember it was for spray painting cars, right?
Right. So it's virtually spray painting, so people don't have to use actual. The teacher can be right there next to you, and there's no fumes. There's no. It saves a lot of materials and whatever. But that was just an incredibly fast time frame. I mean, that's one of those things where you're working 30 hours over weekends.
Wow.
To get that done. But
that's awesome.
You move on. But no, the fun ones, those Crayola ones are still fun. I mean, I remember back at our old office, we'd be out in the parking lot, drawing with crayons and paint and stuff, and everybody else in the building is like, what are you guys doing?
Definitely. But I really appreciate you taking the time today, Dan, to let us come in and show us everything. And the camera's gonna get to see you guys a lot anyways, because you'll be working on the project. But it was just good to come into Spark and see how everything moves.
No, it's been fun watching your project grow in the space.
I appreciate it, definitely. It's awesome.
Good to see you guys.
You as well. That's why I tell people, man. When it comes to life, man, you really just gotta get into this shit. You gotta just jump into it because you're gonna fail, but I'll tell you this, every time you fail a little bit, at least you gain a little knowledge because you're learning while you're doing it. I feel like anybody that really believes in themselves should do this anyways. I feel like somebody should always have the because life is a great experience. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody's journey is special. You know, through this shit. Like if you really been through some shit, you gotta get it out there. Because if you don't do it for, like if you don't do that, you're doing the world a discredit and yourself, because people need to know that everybody's doing the same shit. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's out here trying to grind. Everybody deserves to have the camera on them and be out here. Real shit. Like, especially if you've been through some shit, yo. Get out and do this shit.